Ultra Cycling Magazine Show.
Well, hello. Oh. I did it again too, Lee. Sorry about that. Welcome to the Ultra Cycling Magazine Show, everybody. This is Jim Lawyer here, and my wonderful, great host, Lee Kreider. How you doing, Lee?
Hey, I'm doing. It's so good. We haven't talked in how long?
Quite a while, since probably late summer or maybe midsummer. Yep.
We won't go into all the things that
the gory details, but
yeah.
But I'm back tonight, at least till 8:30 tonight, so we're good.
Very good. Glad to have you.
Glad to be back. I'm going to be a little bit slow on my take. And just so, Lee, real quick, a little bit of housekeeping. I'm showing an error on one of the feeds to, I don't know which one it is. I got
an error on what?
One of the feeds, one of the outgoing feeds up at the top right corner. I got an exclamation point next to one of them. So I don't know which one we're not going to.
I don't, but...
You don't?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay,
I don't have anything.
We'll see how it goes. All right, well, we'll get going, and hopefully everything's working correctly. Again, I'm glad to be back. I know Lee did the first one of the season last week, I believe, or 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And I missed that one, so I'm glad to be back with all you people out there, and hopefully you enjoy this year's version of the Ultra Cycling Magazine Show.
Yeah, and we're going to take it a little easier to kind of get back in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Because of put a little less strain on all of us here. I hope you understand, but a lot of things are happening, and we're going to keep them happening as much as we can.
Definitely.
And so let's tell them about the time station, Jim.
All right. Here we go.
Well, I guess I talk about them, don't I?
Yep, you do. I think that's what you had written down.
We're learning again.
There you go.
We're here because of wonderful people who operate the time stations here in Ohio, 41 in Oxford, 42 in Blanchester, and 43 in Chillicothe. And, of course, Mike Minium, the sign man, puts out all these wonderful signs. We'll be telling you more about that and how you can support him as we get closer and closer to the race across America. So... and also, Jim.
It's down there. Yep.
Do the. You want me to do it?
The Facebook? Yep. Follow and subscribe, correct?
Yeah. Bear with us. Follow us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and when you're on YouTube, ring that bell. Despite all of our problems and what have you, people are still following us and still subscribing, and we appreciate that.
Definitely.
So Jim, you haven't been here to tell us about the start of the race across the East.
Yeah, it was I thought it went off relatively good. We didn't have, I don't think, any complaints, which was good. We had a great turnout for the first year. We had really good weather, although it was extremely hot, if everybody remembers. I know you had planned to come out, but it was just stupid hot. So, but we moved our location of the start and the time station in Blanchester to the high school, and it's a great place, and that's where we're going to be again this year for the second coming of the Race Across the East, as well as the Blanchester time station for Rams. So, but we had a really good time, learned a lot. Going to make some good changes for this coming race start and for the time station this year. I know we've got a good turnout so far. We've got nine people signed up so far in Race Across the East. There's 6 in Race Across the West so far, and 20 for Rams. So overall good. Not as good as I'd hoped so far, but I'm sure it will pick up here shortly.
And Cold Country Bay, which Joe's running over there on the east side of the state, they've got 33 registered already. And if you go to the show notes at ucm.bike and look at the show notes for this show, you'll see a link there where you can register and see who else is coming. And maybe that'll encourage you to sign up. I don't
definitely.
I don't have a lot more to talk about.
No,
Except
basically, everybody, if you're online and you have a question for Leah or myself or our guest that's coming up, please post your questions and we'll get you an answer.
And next, we're going to have a show next week, Jim, because Lena is going to go to the World Time Trials, and she's going to be there traveling, what have you. So she wanted to be a week earlier. So next week,
Okay.
at 3 p.m. Sunday, we're going to have Alina on from Austria. She was the overall winner of the race around Austria, and it's going to be on the World Time Trials, and I don't know, a whole bunch of other stuff to boot.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we're going to have that. With that, I think we ought to bring.
Yep. Hey, Dwayne, nice to have you out there.
Yeah, thanks, Dwayne. Always glad to see you.
Yep. And if you don't have a question or comment, just let us know you're out there and where you're from.
Yeah, where you're from. If you can't think of anything else.
All right. Let's bring Shawn on. Hey, Shawn, how you doing?
How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
It's great.
Move Shawn up top here.
Okay.
So, Shawn, tell us a little about yourself. You've been involved in a lot of different kinds of bike racing, haven't you?
Yeah, I started somewhere around 1988. I think it was 88 was the first time I got a cycling license in Canada. Up until just a few years ago, I haven't been renewing it because I don't race that much anymore. But started doing road racing, criteriums, time trials just as a kid, and went through cadet and junior and senior. In Canada, they call it senior. Here, I believe it's always been Cat 1 or. So went through the categories and raced for quite a while at a decent level, and raced a little bit in Europe in a few places. That was great experience, and probably going on, I don't know, it's got to be like 8 years ago now or 7 years ago, I just decided falling off my bike at high speed in an industrial park was a bit dangerous, and a friend of mine was into double centuries, and I got into starting to do double centuries and learned right away that racing hard for 100 miles is super fun until you have to do the next 100 miles, which becomes less enjoyable. So I learned that a little bit, and that led me in the direction to speaking with you guys.
Awesome. So we always ask what really made you want to do Ram first instead of one of the shorter ones?
Well, I did do a couple of the shorter ones first.
Okay.
So I started with double centuries at 200 miles. And then I went and tried the 24-hour World Time Trial Championships. And it's 400 miles, I believe, is sort of the standard. Got pretty close the first time at 355 miles on a road bike with clip-ons. And that was a lesson in going way too fast, way too soon, and then the rest of it was double century experience after that. And so I got successful at that, and that qualified me to do a solo Ram or Raw. And so I decided to go with Raw first and see how that would go. And a good friend of mine, Matt, and my girlfriend Kim, they were my crew, only two of them for Raw.
Wow.
And so that was about as shoestring as you could get. And we were, for 3 people, I had to be part of my own crew because there's only 3 of us. So, there's things that I had to focus on myself because they were, to be honest, I don't really know how they did it because it was more like push me off, away I go. But they're still live and active in my event. So it was difficult for us at times. Probably at the halfway point where probably all 3 of us were ready to stop. So they were as tired as I was for sure, if not more. And that experience sort of led me to believe that fine-tuned and then obviously stretched out a little bit, quite a lot. Would potentially get me across America. So Raw was, I think, I just saw the thing from Ram. It was like 3 days and 17 hours or something, which it got me in the time limit. And I thought after that like even though that was a really hard challenge, Kim and Matt got me through a very disappointing time after riding my time trial bike in the desert. Between Blythe in Congress, Arizona for me was that entire race. That was the worst of the worst for me. And it wasn't even a hot year.
Okay, so it wasn't the heat. That's what I was just getting.
It was for me. It was the heat.
Heat. Yeah. Was it mental too, or was it?
So after we stopped in Congress, I thought I was okay for the most part. I don't know what they saw out of me, but once I got on my road bike to get up the hill out of Congress, that was dying 1,000 deaths for me. I mean, I probably stopped, whatever the number is, was for sure a dozen times, and I wasn't moving most of the time very fast.
Right.
So we got up over that hill. They went into triage mode, and I was able to, after morning rolled around, I just cooled off enough and replenished enough that from that point on, I was good the whole rest of the ride, barring being like having some sore feet and all the normal things I would imagine. But I learned a lot about myself and what not to do. Unfortunately, it's the world's toughest bike race, but I don't believe you should race it if you're at a certain level. And so that's a level that I'm at. And so for Raw, I took it that I could get halfway there on just willpower alone, but the rest of the way was, a lot of growing. So
excellent.
Yeah, so I learned a lot about that. It was no different than a double century. I just knew I couldn't race this anymore. So 20 miles an hour is the best in the business. Don't need to go that fast. And so 12 miles an hour is still plenty fast at times.
Gotcha.
It's better than no speed.
Definitely. Keep moving's better than stopping. What were the big takeaways that you're going to bring with you to RAM that you may have learned and you're going to change for RAM out of Raw?
Probably learning to, these are things I have to learn a bit, but at least I understand where I had a deficit.
Right.
I think that recovering on my bike and like full nutrition on my bike while I'm moving is going to be something I have to probably practice a little bit. Doing the 24-hour worlds a few times and being out there, I sort of gotten into the habit of, in 3 laps, I sort of stop, refuel, do my thing, and get going again. That's still not quite efficient enough to travel the distance, I think. So I'm going to have to learn how to sort of regulate liquids and whatever it is I want to eat to manage that while I'm riding. So I still have an idea of, I would like some downtime during the day for RAM. I'm going to have to do that for myself.
Okay.
Just for how I am, I don't have 10 years of ultra cycling.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to have to manage my speed versus my recovery time.
Gotcha.
So that'll be something. My big takeaway from that is Durango, Colorado is a long ways away from the finish of RAM.
Yep.
And it was a long ways away from Oceanside for me the first time I did it. And so my goal is I need to get, and this is so far just what I've thought about, I need to get up over Wolf Creek Pass and sort of feel like I have some freedom. And then maybe the ride sort of becomes the next stage for me. So
gotcha. Excellent.
I'd like to take it in maybe thirds or quarters a little bit and
there you
sort
go.
of reevaluate. I don't know how that looks right now.
Well, you told us before we went on the air that you've been out to Borrego on the World Time Trial. Do you get out there in the desert very much to kind of acclimatize to the heat?
So though I do have the ability to do that, I don't take full advantage of it because for my job, which is I basically have a 8 to 9 to 5, like a lot of people. And so
Right.
I can get out there on the weekend and practice that kind of stuff. But depending on the sort of how I'm going to plan on getting in shape, it takes a little bit of fitness to handle the heat. And so it just becomes inefficient to go out there and ride myself into the ground.
Right.
I did go out there. Yeah, I did go out there yesterday, and we started very early in the morning. My friend Matt and I, actually, who helped me in my crew last time, we went out and did some laps, and I was riding at a pace to push myself beyond the mileage we were going to ride, so that I would get a good idea what could possibly happen at the World Time Trial Championships. And so for me, that was just an exercise in what part of the engine is going to break first.
Gotcha.
And so I found that out, and we rode 100 miles at 20 miles an hour.
Excellent.
And so that speed is good, though I don't need anywhere near that in the 24-hour race. It tells me that if I sort of have that effort, that gets me, for myself, 3/4 of the way to a mileage. And so this year's goal is going to be just stay focused for 24 hours or very close to that. And so I don't have a number in mind. It was just trying to figure out my fatigue factor. I do have some weeks to still practice, and I have some experience that gets me in shape in a short period of time, as far as like I've just always been able to in 3 or 4 weeks sort of come around. And I've always thought if I could handle the load and I'm smart enough about it, I can get through something. So
excellent.
That's what this 24-hour race is. So Lee, I could go out there more often and get heat acclimatized, and I will for a Ram. But I haven't had the need to yet. So I do have a need to now.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of crew, do you have a crew planned for Ram already, or are you still looking? Or
I'm still looking. I would say that I have half a crew at 80%.
Okay.
And so, which is very good for me. I think I don't know if I'm ahead of schedule or not. I've seen lots of things where it takes years to do this, so hard to say. But for me, I have some good people in mind that can help me through this, and I think that it shouldn't really be about. I should have choose the crew and make sure they're all good, but I need to choose around them. And so that's how I look at it right now. I look at like what are the best people that are gonna get along.
Definitely.
So, and it's not so much about the best people to do one particular thing, just about the right people sort of spread evenly with the same goal.
Temperament and tolerance, yes, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that the people so far that I have been into bike racing, biking, and have an idea of the sort of the fatigue factor that can happen, and understand some of those stresses. And not everybody's been through that, so yeah. So I'm getting there for sure. It's difficult. It's with how long Ram is versus even what Raw was.
Right.
It's difficult to tear someone away from something that's for a couple weeks, basically. I think probably is the right time frame. So.
Yep, we understand that. Lee, you have any?
Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, interrupt. I see, if people don't want to make a comment, it doesn't cost them anything. Give us thumbs up.
There you go.
And so
let us know where you're watching from.
Ruth Sox has done that. I think Ruth, are you Tracy May's mother? I forget who. I'm old. And Joe's out there, Joe Lawhorn. Hey, Joe, give us a comment. Let us know you're out there.
Yep.
We did. I don't know if you were in here in time. We did point out the fact that in our show notes at ucm.bike, there is a link to the registration for Cold Country Roubaix. So
definitely.
Thank you for being out there. And the rest of you, like I said, it doesn't cost you anything. Give us thumbs up, but we'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, and give us a question if if you're a rookie and you're interested in ultracycling. This is a good place to ask questions about that.
And well, what questions you have, Shawn? Now, if Joe's out there listening, he's a good person to ask.
Definitely.
What kind of questions would you have to ask of an experienced ultracyclist, Shawn?
Well, I think one thing that I'm looking at as far as a strategy is potentially, well, this is just for me again, because I have to look at it in terms that I'm familiar with. And I need, 33 of these or so. I was thinking about dividing the course up into 100-mile sections for myself. And that might seem short versus what other people look at, but nutrition versus what bike I might ride in that time frame versus how long should it take me, because I'm looking at trying to sort of save some time and bag some time for when things get bad and I need some extra time to stop. So is that a good idea to sort of have 33 goals, or that's based on the mileage, 100 miles, 33
Right.
miles,
That makes sense. Yeah.
something like that. Is that too many? Is that too much? Because I've seen a lot of people sort of have a 24-hour sort of goal. Do it by day.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to overcomplicate the first time that I try and do this. Yeah, because I would like it. If I get there, I would like it to be. If it's very, very successful, it might not be the last time I do it. If it's skin and teeth, I might have to try some other things before, if I feel like I can better myself. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
Or if you're like me, Shawn, I would say, can I make it to the next utility pole?
Well, I appreciate that distance, but I might have to shoot for a few utility poles at a time.
Hey, there you go.
Well,
And I don't know if I've heard, what distances people try to do before, but I know whatever works for you the best is what you need to do,
yeah.
And we always say, don't go out screaming because it's a long race, and you figured that out already. So,
yeah, the thing that was surprising, and you look back at it and think, I wasn't going that hard, but from Borrego to Blythe, it was, darker, better for me. I ride fine when it's dark and cool. And so I probably rode my time trial bike 5 miles an hour faster than I needed to. And then we ended up having our first sort of rest time in Blythe. And looking back, that was just too soon for my what I needed to do. So probably I'm shooting to get to this Congress, Arizona spot, and hopefully it's cooler. If I can get up over that, I'll feel better about it. But yeah, that's probably my biggest question: is how do people divide up the race, and what does that look like? I'm also haven't been very big on sort of watching my nutrition a ton. I'm not that dialed in. I know it works for me in certain time frames, but probably for Ram, I will have to be a little more diligent on nutrition and calorie intake versus even riding my bike potentially, because that'll keep me going.
Shawn, you mentioned or alluded twice to getting over the Rockies. Is that something that's big in your mind, or have you had much experience at higher altitude?
No, I think that the one thing, because I know what such a struggle it was to get to Durango, and just Durango, not even get out of Durango. Could I have ridden out of Durango? Not the condition I was in when I got there. And we even had a shortened route last year due to the fire that was in Flagstaff. So I think it was maybe 80 miles or so short, or a little bit longer than that. So that is my big goal. So if I was going to cut up my 100 miles into stages, the goal is to get out of the Rockies and descend down and start another sort of section. So I'll feel successful at some point, or feel some success just riding past where I was sort of obliterated before. So that's, for me, it is a big thing. By the time the race rolls around, I'll be fairly confident in going uphill. I'm not super slow when I get in shape going uphill. Not that I want to be fast, but be able to handle going uphill, because it takes quite a bit out of you, especially the extra weight. So yeah, the Rockies are a big goal. I think all the punchier stuff is a little more my style,
Mm-hmm.
but it's gonna be a long ways. I don't exactly. You guys might know. It seems like it's 1,000+ miles before it gets punchy again. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'll have to be ready for that. And I also don't want to ride too hard once I get over the Rockies and take advantage of a flat road. I need to
Right.
realize I still have an extra third when I'm done with the flat road.
There you
So,
go.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You know, everybody has to do that, though, Sean.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, I know.
you know, those won't be the toughest climbs you have by any means.
No.
Um, it's just, you know, the altitude is a factor. And
Yep.
I think that's a lot of, well, you can learn more about altitude. I'm not going to try to give my 2 cents or my anecdotes. But yeah, okay, very well.
Now, on your equipment, your bikes, do you plan on bringing a time trial bike again and a climbing bike and a road bike, or what's your
No,
plan there?
yeah, it's gonna be a little sort of all in the middle of that. So my
Okay.
time trial bike that I use in the 24-hour race, the
Mm-hmm.
one advantage that I have had for myself over the years, being close to the course,
Right.
is I've been able to adapt my time trial bike for me for that race. So I have a
Right.
very, very relaxed bike. It's a check speed concept, an earlier one. The first one's with like all integration and that kind of stuff. And that bike is set up as high as possible. It could go a little bit higher, and it's very comfortable for me to ride
Mm-hmm.
for extended periods of time.
Yep.
I use the aero factor of the bike in a comfortable position. I don't try and I wouldn't say my body position is aero by any means. It's just
Gotcha.
comfortable.
Yep.
And then as far as a road bike, I'll just ride a road bike that I've sort of built up for this race that I've had sort of sitting around as a collector's a little bit because it has
Mm-hmm.
it's all cables. I'm not really a big fan of all the electronic stuff
Mm-hmm.
yet, although I have it on my gravel bike, but that's
Right.
okay. But as far as endurance events go, my time trial bike does have electronic shifting on it, wireless.
Yep.
It won't have that for Race Across America. I'll end up putting cables
Wow.
on. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
and it's all internal cables, but on my
Right.
road bike, it'll all be external cables
Mm-hmm.
because it's really easy to work on. If something happens, the cable's on
Yep.
the outside. You don't have to fish anything. So simplicity wise, I'm a little old school that way. And I believe
Hey.
that I don't have to worry about charging a battery or some
Yeah.
electronic failure because it's wet.
Oh,
So I'm gonna probably, pardon me, Lee.
you're a man after my own heart.
Well, I just
I
11
still
speed mechanical shifting works.
I still
works
use
fine.
down tube shifter, Sean.
I have a bike. That's how I started racing. I have
Mhm.
a bike.
I'll tell you, I can reach down there with one hand and shift both levers, and the cable length is only about like that on the one.
Yeah,
Well, that's
I'm not going that
Yeah.
old. I'm not going that old school yet.
You're not
There you
going
go.
that far, huh?
Well, I hate
I
to do
could.
this, Lee. I've got a boogie from my other meeting, so I apologize.
Oh, okay. Jim's
Thank you,
got to
Sean,
drop out.
very much
Thank
for
you
your
very much.
time, and I look
Goodbye.
forward to talking to you again and seeing you at the time station.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
If you've got any comments or questions out there, for goodness sakes, help me out. Jim just left me hanging dry here. But let's get to the subject that I know is of interest, and your T-shirt indicates there. By the
Yeah.
way, everybody, I got a bad pneumatic cylinder on my chair, so I feel myself. I keep going down. I've got a new cylinder on order, but it's crazy. That's why I've switched to my dog, so you could watch Riley a little bit while I got myself back up again. Now, here, let's talk about the Lam Foundation.
Yeah. So the Lam Foundation, which I have the pronunciation on my shirt, it might be a bit hard to see, but it's
Yeah, I can see it.
it's Lymphangioleiomyomatosis is how you say it, and it's a lung disease primarily affecting women. And at a certain point, it becomes particularly inhibitive to breathing and sort of degeneration of your lungs, and then amongst other things, it's other physical difficulties and challenges come with on top of that. And so a while ago, around 2015, I believe, I ended up with Pseudomonas in my lungs, which is sort of the long term for gangrene hospital pneumonia. So
Yeah.
that's what Pseudomonas is. I ended up with that in my lungs because I have bronchiectasis, which is a collapsed area in my lung. And a lot of people have that and they don't even know about it. But because my doctors were looking into what was wrong with me, they were able to find that. And so a friend of mine, Patricia, she has Lam, and she was able to help me through a lot of the stuff I was going through with just trying to get out something that I had in my lungs, and sort of gave me all the advice she could for clearing it out and just lifestyle stuff and things to do. And probably the biggest thing that helped me was the level that I had, the level of how bad I thought what I had stuck in my lungs was versus what she had was a great influence on sort of, all right, I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be just fine and get back to normal. And she might not be able to ever see that again. And so that made me realize there's this, for this point in time in doing RAM, this is a good way to sort of spread the word, if I can, about Lam, because it's not, there's not a lot of people know about it because it's so few and not very common as far as a disease goes. So it's very, very rare. Yep.
Well, I'm not going to try to pronounce it nor spell it.
It's all right. I'll have the whatever the phonetics of it on.
If you look in the show notes,
yeah,
if you look in the show notes at ucm.bike, you'll see a link to the where you can donate to Shawn's fundraising, and also a link to the foundation itself, and you can learn more about it there. Is it one of those diseases that's hard to diagnose or sometimes misdiagnosed, Shawn?
That happens for a period of time. Just I think due to the fact that I think a lot of people, not everybody is runs out to the doctor, I think, for the first sign of anything. So it's very, very gradual and spread out over time. So I believe that's probably why has misdiagnosis and that stuff, and treatment gets delayed. Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, that's a new one on me, and I've been around a little bit of lung disease, so kind of know a little bit about that. Is this is there treatments for it or what?
Yeah, I believe the treatments for it. I don't know all the in-depth stuff on all the treatments, but I think basically trying to eliminate the not the spread of it, but I guess the process of the degeneration, and then could end up with a lung transplant in the end. I think that's still either way. I think the lifespan when someone is diagnosed now is like 10 to 20 years versus inside of 10 years. So there has been some gains made there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's often the process of just, add some quality of life and some length of life. So many of these diseases, and it seems like there's several around the lungs, they're so rare that they don't really get much money for research.
Yeah,
and consequently, they're kind of orphan diseases. And even if they do get a medication, they are so expensive that it's really a problem. So, well, we appreciate what you're doing there. By the way, I want to say hello to Jane Chadchek. Jane Chanishek, who is out there. She give us a like, give us thumbs up. Thank you, Jane. And we appreciate that. Like I said, it doesn't cost you anything. Give us a thumbs up. And that does help us actually get the word out on ultracycling, because the more thumbs we get, the more. And we just had a message here from Matt. Is that somebody you know, Matt?
Yeah, Matt is actually was my part of my crew for Raw. So, yeah. And what he's saying is that that is part of my nutrition plan, actually. He happens to know that. So for me, a way to get sodium, some carbs, and something I don't mind eating. I have just drank cup of noodles or a soup out of a jar, so cold. So for necessity of time, I don't believe warming it up did much. So
I've discovered, like so many other people, that when you're in a physically stressing yourself like that, you're always surprised at what hits the spot, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I found that works for me in the 24-hour race, or even doing a double century and coming back to my car if you do loops or something.
Yeah.
It's just something you practice once. If it works, you're good.
I became a great fan of pear juice. I don't know. I got the can to eat the pears, but I found the juice is what really did a lot of good. So.
Yeah, that's
thanks,
good.
Matt, for chiming in here. And
yes, thanks, Matt.
Yeah. Well, listen, we wish you well. Don't go away. When we're going to go out there in a bit.
Okay.
And I have to do all this myself now since Jim left us. But thank you so much for being with us. We wish you well on the Race Across America. And don't make yourself scarce. Keep in touch with us, will you?
I won't, for sure. I'll keep you informed as how things are progressing and anything I might learn that could be helpful to anybody, because I'm starting from scratch. So.
Okay, very good. Yep. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank all of you for comment, for your thumbs up. Thank you, those of you who have subscribed to us on YouTube, who have followed us on Facebook. You know, the important thing I say is that that's what helps get the word out about ultracycling, a sport we all love dearly. And with that, let me find the right thing here. We're going to get our friend Greg in here to usher us out. Stay around, Shawn.
This is Gregory Zuber, thanking you for watching and sharing.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
I can't get to. We were talking before we went on the air, this problem with ours. And